Welcome to Security Weekly. I'm your host, Matt Alderman. We are recording at DEF CON 27. We're at the Blue Team Village. Joining me for this interview is Tyler Robinson.
How's it going, guys?
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm good.
So, are you allowed to talk about what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think so.
We can
get into some things.
Because as a former red teamer, are you still red teaming, or are you blue teaming, or are you doing both?
Honestly, still doing a lot of offense. That's where my focus is at. But I think we're at a stage inside of the whole security industry as a whole, bringing both blue and red together. And they call it purple teaming. It's obviously, an overused term. But really, we're at a point where the offense and defense have got to be a real blended mix, and we have to start collaborating and becoming one organization and one mission. Over whatever we've kind of separated each other, we kind of try and work together. But honestly, the people that are doing good red teaming now have a real deep embedded relationship with the blue team, and they really should be viewed as a blue teamer, because honestly, if blue team is or if red team is winning, then your blue team is losing, and that means everybody's losing at that point.
Well, red team did win the extra hop challenge.
They did.
But then
blue team got something.
Yeah, but I told Paul, I said, of course the red team's going to win because you guys are going to hack the game, right?
It's not cheating if we do it.
It's not cheating if you get away with it, I guess. But it's a valid point, right? Is offense is typically ahead of defense in this space. But how do we get red and blue teams to work better together? Because I still see a gap in that actually happen. O'Shea and I were just talking about it previously, right? Is how do you get those red team pen test results to the blue team, the SOC, to learn from, to better defend? Something's got to happen to make that a little easier, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is there's really a twofold approach to this. First is really getting the red teamers and the offensive people to change both their mindset and their attitude. Really, as a community and as the red team, they've always been viewed as kind of the jocks or the superstars. But really, that's just because at some point they probably were a blue team, and getting there takes a lot of work, right? However, that attitude and that mentality has caused a split where they're not helping the blue team as much because they have to have their elite skills. They want to make sure they're getting in and breaking everything. But I really think it is the approach of shifting that mindset from the offensive side and realizing that we all are actually blue at the end of the day. We don't want attackers to get in. That's why we do what we do.
Right.
And so really making sure that our mindset is 100% feeding back into the blue team, providing good communications and full disclosures and full transparency, really working with the purple team, blending those two together and really being a part of one mission and one whole community at that point. Like cybersecurity should not have the offense and defense split. We shouldn't be doing those particular pieces. We're all in this game together, and we're really trying to go against some adversaries that they're really tough, and that means solving tough problems, and that is where if we don't work together and provide those insights and really help build up our blue team and work very closely with them with communication, with findings, with helping develop and do a lot of community outreach, bringing up. We're really short on blue teamers. We're really short on red teamers. So that means we're going to have to start working together to help some of these people come up the ranks.
So if I think about in a large organization where you have a red team and a blue team, it's probably a lot easier to get some of that coordination to happen.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you can do it through organizational structure or from the leadership to make sure that happens. But a lot of organizations don't have their own dedicated red teams, right?
Yeah,
they're looking to the external consulting side, right?
Absolutely.
Your history and a lot of guys in here that have been doing red teaming outside. I'm trying to think about, as pen testers and pen testing companies, how can you or how should you help your clients from a blue team perspective? Is there something you guys can do to help break down some of those barriers? Or is because you're an outsider, there's a layer of management and stuff in between that you really can't be effective doing that?
No, I think you can absolutely be effective. And again, that's one of the things that we really try and provide is bringing a lot of our threat intel, a lot of our attack simulation, and our purple team together. And taking that to the client and really becoming a trusted advisor or integrating ourselves with the client. So it's a relational thing, and it's not just here's a pen test, we super sneaky, you didn't see anything, here's our report, go fix some findings.
Yeah.
That's not worked for the last decade.
Right.
We've really got to establish some relationships with with companies and be able to sit there with their SOC, with their blue team, provide actual valuable recommendations and work with them. Like if the tool's not doing it and there's a bypass, you don't wait till next year to do the next pen test. You're there working with them. It's your client. You want to have that relationship, because if they look bad and they get a breach, I think that should be pushed up to the offensive. That's where the responsibility should come to. If your blue is losing, that means you didn't do your job as a red teamer.
Are you seeing more of that? Because I remember, look, I haven't done the red teaming side for a long, long time. I mean, I think the last time I probably attempted to do a penetration outside test was probably 2002, maybe 2003. Okay, so it's been a long, long time. Stuff has changed dramatically. So I am not a red teamer expert at all. But when I did those activities, I was sitting back down with the team, sharing the results and trying to build aspects of that, but maybe not in as best a strategic relationship at the time, right?
Yep.
They were still kind of one-off events back then.
Yep.
And
That's still
so,
the case.
Okay. And so I'm trying to think, are we seeing improvement in companies wanting to build relationships with their red teams and really making them an integral part as a strategic partner? Or are we still just seeing these as kind of one-offs? Yeah, you might get a little bit of time, but then you're off to the next one, and they're looking at the next red team exercise with a different vendor because they want a different perspective.
Absolutely. I think we're seeing a big shift with good companies doing good pen tests and doing good threat emulation. It takes a long time to build that rapport and get the political clout and provide the impact that maybe a security team is needing to take to the executive level and provide the the funding for either people or tooling. But I think that has shifted a little bit. But I believe that gap has separated, right? I think at one point we were at a place where that was kind of the more or less real good pen test companies are doing it right, and they're working and establishing those relationships and doing long-term engagements, providing really, really valuable recommendations. And then the ones that were kind of mediocre, I think that is split, and you can see the differentiation between the two much more clearly now. And the education with the Blue Team Village here is educating them as far as the attacker tool sets, as far as what resources are out there to help. And I think this particular thing, having a lot of defense integrated into a hacker conference, you have to admit, like, there has to be some improvement happening. I think the big part that's not happening is the executive level stuff. We really need to get that education passed down.
Up a couple layers. Because if you look in here, I mean, this room is getting full because we're getting ready to start another speaker, but it's full, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of people in this
wouldn't
Blue
be a
Team
popular village
right
prior.
And so now what you have is practitioners sitting here at the Blue Team, but then I think that next challenge is how do we educate their leadership to build a better relationship with you and the other pen testing firms and make it all come together.
And I think that's one of the big differentiators too between good pen test companies and like the things that we try and impart to our clients is we spend a great deal of time trying to educate the executive board and make a real personal connection with them and take the time to, we're not speaking down to them. This isn't their field. They're good at what they do. We're good at what we do. It's our responsibility as Red Team to be able to articulate that properly at that executive level and speak their language, show them the business risks, show them why the return on investment is going to, make a difference. Those executive level briefings and really taking the additional steps and efforts to write a good executive summary or report and then go and educate them and spend some time with them. They're very busy people, but they appreciate your third-party insight. That's what they pay for.
And I think that's a challenge because I think it's hard enough for the security guys to understand the language of business, okay, within the organization they are, right? As red teamers, right, as pen testers, you guys have to also do that because you want your results to be interpreted correctly so decisions can be made to improve. But that's not easy because you guys are also on the outside a little bit. So thinking about business impact and potential business risk requires you guys maybe to do a little more deep diving on the organization and what's important, what's not important, and what's critical so that you can actually make the right recommendations. And that requires that two-way dialogue if you're going to do it right.
Absolutely. And I think that's so, while we have to hone our skills, almost daily to keep up in the offensive side of this, I think the the bigger return on investment and where a lot of the really good red teamers that you'll see in the industry, the ones making big impact and big names for themselves, those are the people that have taken the extra initiative to learn business, to learn how to, to mingle with the executives in the C-level, really understand the business of their clients and make a threat profile for that from a business standpoint. Putting that extra time into being able to articulate that at that level is just as valuable as honing your skill.
Right,
yeah,
is the actual pen test itself.
Absolutely.
Because you can have the best pen tester in the world, and there's lots of them, but if you can't articulate what you did and the results and the potential impact to the organization, how are they going to make any changes to improve their defenses on the blue team side, right?
And then that doesn't look very good for you. Again, like if your clients are getting breached, like obviously there are political games that have to be played, but again, I think that's the offense's job to circumvent and be able to navigate those particular political things and really provide some education around what are the reasons behind this from a business standpoint. Otherwise, you're not going to have money, you're not going to have the FTEs you need. There's going to be an uphill battle. You really have to get top-down support, and sometimes that has to happen in different ways in different organizations because they just don't get it yet. But your ability to articulate that creatively and to really have your pitch and your understanding of business need and how to pitch that properly becomes much more critical than any of the engagements. I think we'd make way more change if we'd spend a little bit more time looking at each of the businesses and really taking a minute personally
and crafting the results to the actual business.
Absolutely not. No candid results. Really crafting that and honestly caring about the work you're doing and the company you're doing it for. It's not just a pen test, not just a job or a paycheck. Like that's someone's, that's someone else's paycheck. That's someone's retirement.
Right.
That's that's a utility. That's a critical piece of infrastructure. There's loss of life there. So really caring personally, and then as a company, making sure you care about your clients and you go the extra mile. And regardless of whatever the contracts, the money, you're doing it for a reason, the mission.
Right. Red teamers work with your clients better, improve their defenses, and bridge that gap between the red team and the blue team.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Tyler, thank you.
Absolutely, man. It was good seeing you again.
Yeah, good seeing you. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.